Welcome to the revolution. Hello and welcome to Red Pill Revolution. My name is Austin Adams. Thank you so much for listening today. This is episode number 30 of the Red Pill Revolution podcast. And again, thank you so much for listening. Pretty excited about this conversation we're going to have today. It is all surrounding, a little bit in the Memorial Day theme here. We are going to be discussing all of some really incredible stories surrounding some of the Medal of Honor recipients from our great nation here in the United States of America. I know we have some people listening abroad, but there's some really incredible stories, some really incredible people that we're going to highlight today. So I'm really excited to get into this. A few of the names that we're going to be going over is Kyle Carpenter, Dakota Meyer, Salvatore Giunta, John Chapman, Thomas Paine, and then we got a sprinkle of some Jocko Willink in here to both get us into the episode and an outro to the episode. So I think I don't think you can get any more American than Jocko Willink. So let's go ahead and jump into this clip here. A little bit of some Memorial Day United States pride here. Here is Jocko Willink.
In a country that most people would struggle to find on a map, in a compound that few possess the courage to enter, men from my previous life took the fight to our enemy. In that compound, they found men that pray 5 times a day for your destruction. Those praying men don't know me, they don't know you, and they don't know America. They don't understand our compassion, our freedoms, and our tolerance. I know it may seem as if some of those things are currently missing, but they remain at our core and always will. Those men don't care about your religious beliefs. They don't care about your political opinions. They don't care if you sit on the left or the right, liberal or conservative, pacifist or warrior. They don't care how much you believe in diversity, equality, or freedom of speech. They don't care. I'm sorry you've never felt the alarm bells ringing in your body, the combination of fear and adrenaline as you move towards the fight instead of running from it. I'm sorry you've never heard someone cry out for help or cried out for help yourself, relying on the courage of others to bring you home. I'm sorry you've never tasted the salt from your own tears as you stand at flag-draped coffins burying men you were humbled to call your friends. I don't wish those experiences on you, but I do wish you had them. If you had them, it would change the way you act. It would change the way you value. It would change the way you appreciate. You would become quick to open your eyes and slow to open your mouth. Most will never understand the sacrifice required to keep evil men like those from that distant compound away from our doorstep. But it would not hurt you to try and understand. It would not hurt you to take a moment to think of the relentless drain on family, friends, and loved ones that are left behind. Sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months, sometimes for years, sometimes forever. Ideas are not protected by words. Paper and ink may outline the foundation and principles of this nation, but it is blood, only blood, that protects it. In that dusty compound, a man you have never met gave everything he had so that you have the freedom to think, speak, and act however you choose. He went there for all of us, whether you loved or hated what he stood for. He went there to preserve the opportunity and privilege to believe, to be, and to become what we want. This country, every single person living inside of its borders and under the banner of its flag, owe that man. We owe that man everything. We owe him the respect that his sacrifice deserves. Saying thank you is not enough. We send our best and lose them in the fight against the worst evil this world has to offer. If you want to respect and honor their sacrifice, it needs to be more than words. You have to live it. Take a minute and look around. Soak it in. All of it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. You have the choice every day as to which category you want to be in which direction you want to move. You have that choice because the best among us, the best we ever had to offer, fought and bled and died for it. Don't ever forget that.
Wow. Well, what a way to start the show today. Definitely hit me in my feels. Jocko Willink there, just kind of outlining what this day is about, right? The Memorial Day is shrouded with barbecue grills and beach parties with the family and all that's amazing and all that's great. And I'm sure every soldier who has ever sacrificed his life would have wanted it that way, right? Where we're celebrating life, not just being having sorrow for those that we have lost. But it doesn't take away from the fact that we have to remember what the day's about. We have to remember the reason that we are able to even have this type of weekend and the true reason behind that, which is soldiers who have lost their lives for us to have the freedoms that we have here in the United States. Now, over the last few episodes, I'm sure it seems like we've had a tough go here in the United States, the last several months, the last couple of years even. But I don't think that takes away from something that I found pretty powerful in that statement that Jocko Willink just said, was that the piece of paper is what defines who our country is, but the blood of the individuals who are willing to defend it is truly what matters. And that really rings true. And I think we're going to see that today with a lot of the individuals that we're going to hear their stories and know that they're just everyday people just like you and me, who decided to go into the military for one reason or another, but generally because they're a patriot, because they believe in what our country stands for. And this is something that I've had to wrestle with recently, right? I am a veteran myself. I am not a combat veteran, so I did not have the experience that these individuals have had at all. But something that we have to remind ourselves during this time is that there is truly a unique individual who's willing to run to the fight. And every single story that we hear of here is not only the individuals who signed that line, not only the individuals who picked up a weapon and went overseas and left their families, left their children, left their significant others, left everything behind just so they could go and fight for what they believe in, right? And that's kind of what I was getting at before, which is that it's difficult. It's easy to look at all of the flaws that we have in the United States here today. It's easy to look at the political divide and the partisan divides that we have, and kind of just diminish what these great men have done for us. But that's such a shallow viewpoint, right? And the reason that these men signed that dotted line is not because they believe in the politicians. It's not because they believe in they believe in who we are as a nation. They believe in the individuals that are around them. They believe in that piece of paper that Jocko Willink just talked about, right? The Constitution, which was written as a literal divide between totalitarianism that we're seeing all across the world right now. And almost so many countries are dealing with this, totalitarian states. You look at China, you look at the way that they're just ripping people off of their streets in like these like Home Alone white jumpsuits, and for how long we've looked at these different countries and thought that just it could never be like that here. Well, why is that? Well, that's because of two reasons why that is. And the first reason is we have our Constitution. Our Constitution is the founding document of our nation that allows us to have a literal defense against individuals who are in the political system who are trying to take as much power as possible. The Constitution stops us from having people who can go in and become the system. There is already a set system that is out there. There is already a outline of the way that we have to act, and the separation of powers and all of these individual things that make it that were pre-thought out, knowing that politicians are dirty, knowing that politicians are generally corruptible, knowing that people are flawed, right? And that's truly what it is people are flawed. And to know that people are flawed and to implement an institution in a piece of paper, a founding document with our Constitution, which will allow us to have a literal divide, a literal wall, a defense against those corruptible individuals who seek power in the easiest way to go find it, which is through the political system. So that is number one. We have our Constitution, which is a actual defensive wall against those corruptible individuals on the inside. And that is the number one thing that we have to protect ourselves from if we're going to remain a free country. Now, number two, which is equally as important, is that what we have the fortune of having here in the United States is the greatest military power in the world, the greatest military power in the history of the world, right? And that doesn't protect us from the inside more than it protects us from the outside. So to allow us to maintain this organization, to maintain this ongoing freedom away from other totalitarian individuals who are wanting to come in and push their political agendas, whether they're from, foreign or domestic, right? Is what you raise your hand. I promise to defend in the country from foreign and domestic enemies. The foreign aspect of that is where the military comes into play, right? And the military is just a list of individual names who are willing to put their lives on the line to make these things happen. So let's go ahead and let's jump into the very first clip here that we have, which is actually so let's do a little bit of background on the Medal of Honor. So all of these individuals that we're highlighting today are Medal of Honor recipients. Now, it is Memorial Day. Some of these individuals, I believe even most of them, are not deceased, which is definitely a positive thing. But just so you know that, right? And this is Memorial Day, but I am highlighting Medal of Honor, right? So the Medal of Honor is the very first, it was the very first distinguishing factor for the American military. So Abraham Lincoln implemented the Medal of Honor, and it's kind of just been the most distinguished honor that you can have being a part of the military. All right. Now, the structure of this with the Medal of Honor is that you actually have to either get a congressional, a congressman has to put your name down for the Medal of Honor, or your chain of command. So those are two different ways that you can get a Medal of Honor. So far, there's been around 3,500 Medal of Honor recipients. Most of those Medal of Honor recipients were at the very beginning. I think it's 80% of the Medal of Honor recipients were towards the very, very beginning of when the Medal of Honor was made. And so since then, the requirements to receive the Medal of Honor has gone up and become much more distinguished. And there's a lot more, I don't know. There's a lot more specific things that boxes you have to check to get the Medal of Honor, as opposed to what it was like before. So a vast majority came at the very beginning of when the Medal of Honor was made in the early 1800s. Okay, so there's the background for it. Now, since then, the most recent requirements change was in 1963, I believe, where they began to make these requirements more stringent, and you see less and less of these Medal of Honors today. So the very first one that we're going to watch here is of Kyle Carpenter. Kyle Carpenter is an incredible story. He's actually the youngest Medal of Honor recipient ever. It's truly, truly an incredible story. I don't want to take anything away from it for you guys here. So let's go ahead and listen to it, and then we will discuss.
I joined the Marine Corps because I wanted to devote my life, my body, if need be, to something greater than myself or any one individual. In 2010, I deployed with 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines to Marja, Afghanistan. We were constantly attacked, just like we were every single day for the entire deployment. The fighting was very intense, and it wasn't a matter of, okay, is it gonna happen, but just a matter of when. Myself and an amazing friend and fellow Marine, Lance Corporal Nick Eufrasio, we were on top of that roof together. We were near the end of our 4-hour post position on top of the roof when the enemy initiated a daylight attack with hand grenades. I felt like I got hit really hard in the face. My vision was as if I was looking at a TV with no connection. It was just white and gray static. I thought about my family and how devastated they were going to be, especially my mother, that I didn't make it home from Afghanistan. And I closed my eyes and I faded out of consciousness for what I thought was gonna be my last time on this earth. My injuries were so severe that still 9 years later, it's hard to comprehend that I survived.
All right, so what it's saying here, I'm going to pause it real quick because it's saying some stuff that's pretty important. Basically, what ended up happening is Kyle actually jumped on a grenade, and it says that he has very little recollection of what actually happened during this event. But according to the information that they had here, I'll just read it to you. It says, to this day, Kyle's memory of what happened on November 21st, 2010, it remains blurry. But a military review of the incident determined that he had covered the grenade with his body to save the life of Corporal Nick Eufrasio. On June 19th, 2014, Kyle was awarded the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest and most prestigious personal military decoration. All right, I just wanted to read that to you guys. I mean, that's pretty, literally the Captain America story right there for you in a real individual. And we feel the need to create false idols to be able to idolize somebody and think that somebody would have the capabilities or the mindfulness or the courage to do something during this in that type of situation. And that's why it's outlined in a movie in Captain America. An individual, Captain America goes on to jump on the grenade, right? This guy, Kyle Carpenter, actually did that in the state of war to save his friends. How truly incredible, and gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. It's amazing. So let's finish this. If there's anything else that comes up, I'll go ahead and read it to you guys. So here we go. All right. So one second while that loads up for us. But yeah, really incredible story. The fact that, this individual actually did. So it says that several grenades were tossed onto the roof where he was at, and one of them would take an enormous toll. It says Kyle was certain he was going to die when that happened. It says Kyle is often asked what the Medal of Honor means to him. And let's see if we can get this clip going here to discuss what he actually says there for that. Here we go.
We're just here because we're here. We got here because of incredible amounts of courage and sacrifice. The medal represents all who have raised their right hand and sworn to give their life, if called upon, for their country. It represents those who have never made it home to receive the thanks and recognition they deserve. Those who charged the beaches in World War II, froze while fighting in Korea, bled out across the lush fields of Vietnam, and those who never made it home because of another deadly blast in the battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan. Those who were tortured for years in prisoner of war camps, and those who still rest in distant lands, forever remaining missing in action. The medal represents the parents, husbands, wives, and loved ones who have heard the dreaded knock on their front doors to find a telegram or service member delivering the unbearable news. This is where the true weight of the medal is carried. Being a Medal of Honor recipient is a beautiful burden, but one I am honored to carry.
All right, and at the end of the video there, what they show is Kyle going ahead and putting on his Medal of Honor. So really an incredible story, unbelievable story, and one that will go on in history as the real Captain America courage here with Kyle Carpenter. I almost feel like there should have been his name in the credits of the Captain America movie, that they stole that scene from something that actually happened with a true hero. With Kyle Carpenter there. So what an incredible story. Now, the next one that we're going to discuss here is going to be Dakota Meyer. Now, Dakota Meyer is a somewhat of a large figure when it comes to combat veterans who have spoken out. He's been on Joe Rogan, I believe, once or twice. I think twice, where the first time he went on and discussed his story directly. And his story is a hard one to listen to, and a pretty gruesome one at that. And then, that's kind of the thing that you hear about the differences between war. I don't know, the way that our modern wars are fought is a lot of times, you think of a gunfight and you're pressing a button from a far land, or like from hundreds of yards away and shooting at, enemy fire zones, and you're seeing small areas where you're shooting at. And that didn't used to be the case, right? You think back to like the way that they fought in, I don't know, think of like, 1700s was like swords and stuff. That's not that far removed from where we are. So there's some really gruesome stories that come out of like older wars. And we don't have as many hand-to-hand combat stories. And Dakota Meyer is one of those stories where it really just reminds you of the real gritty, terrible aspects of even modern war. And we'll hear a little bit more about it when he discusses it here. But he talks about, in this clip, he not only discusses what he actually went through, what he did, but Dakota Meyer is an incredible story where I believe he was the only one of his team that made it out of a situation where they basically left them stranded. So I don't want to take away too much of his story surrounding it. But it's a really incredible story. That's a little, I believe he ends up, he gets in a hand-to-hand combat situation with somebody and ends up killing them with a rock. Whew, man, like that's, I can't even imagine what these guys carry around with them, right? In that Kyle Carpenter story, not only the fact that he jumped on a grenade, but the fact that he lived to tell about it. It has very little recollection of what happened. Must be a really difficult thing to try and wrestle with. Right, to try and, how often does that come up in his mind, and to not even remember what actually happened when it occurred must be really, I don't know, I guess a blessing in some ways, but also frustrating because it's such a pivotal moment in your life, right? Like you have how many days of your life that you know, thousands and thousands of days in your life. And to have this one most impactful day, like whether it's with what happened with Kyle Carpenter, where he jumps on that grenade and lives to tell the tale, or whether it's about Dakota Meyer, where he ends up, you know, having to take this other man's life. And he talks about not only having to take this man's life, but like the humanity behind it, and looking into this man's eyes and knowing that he's just another person just like him who has a family and kids, and it's tough, but I think it's necessary. We have to know what these people go through to properly be able to memorialize, you know, the other soldiers who actually did fall in these types of situations. But let's go ahead and listen to the Dakota Meyer story now.
Well, I think sometimes people need to hear it from somebody like you, you know, or someone like Jocko, or, you know, the beautiful thing about these podcasts is that you get to hear people's perspective, and a lot of them are eye-opening. You know, they literally can change the world because they change the way you behave and you interact with people when you listen to it.
Yeah.
And that podcast that you did with Jocko, when I was listening to it, I mean, it changed my whole day. It changed like how I was going to look at my day. I was, you know, instead of like looking at my day like, oh, it's a normal day, I was thinking, God damn, I'm lucky.
Yeah.
God damn, I'm lucky. And God damn, imagine experiencing what you, and how old were you at the time?
I was 21.
21 years old.
Yeah.
And experiencing what you experienced in that insane firefight, being locked down. And I mean, how many guys did you wind up engaging with?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, everyone that I got an opportunity with, right? And it just, you know, it was just you know, it was so chaotic. I mean, I think about it all the time, obviously. It's something I could have never experienced. I mean, I trained for war every single day when I was in the Marine Corps. I mean, it was what my job was, and I still could have never imagined that day the way it was, or anything to turn out. I could have never pictured it. I could have never. And I think every day it goes by, I think there's a reckoning of it, right? The way that I seen it that day is not the way I see it today. And I think that comes with, you know, just sharpening and just your body, you know, you change and you see different things in perspective. But yeah, I mean, you know, I you know, that day, I mean, it still is just, you know, it's just there. And literally, I walked out of there, and I just think about all the time today. I just think about all the time of how many generations just that day were changed. How many generations of people's lives were changed. You know, all my teammates died, so they'll never have kids. That generation stopped. Their families forever. So many lives were changed that day by that piece. And guess what? And everybody in America had no clue what was going on. Like right now, there are U.S. troops. Somebody wondering if they're going to be able to come home and see their family again. That's reality. Whether you want to ignore it or not, like, that's reality. And that was me, September 8, 2009. And it was just it was a chaotic day.
I think that's an important thing to highlight too, is like, you know, what percentage of people that are going into these actual firefights, what is their average age? Like the military at that level is primarily made up of, you know, E1s to E4s, maybe some staff sergeant. Like the primary bulk of the individuals who are going in and fighting these wars are 18 to 22-year-old kids, right? Like you listen to, you know, all of these conversations around, you know, gun control and, you know, should he be able to purchase a gun or not at 18 years old, and all the stuff of like the recent events, of the tragic events that have happened. And you don't even remember the fact that our government literally arms 18-year-olds and sends them to fight on their behalf. And the 18-year-olds that are signing up to go into the military don't have the big picture in mind. They barely paid attention in government class, like me. And they really don't even know how our political system works, let alone geopolitics and what's happening around the world and like what's actually going on. They're 18 to 22-year-old kids who are going to fight the wars of these 85, 70-year-old politicians who they don't have a clue what they're actually fighting for, other than, you know, what you'll hear a lot in these kind of videos is they'll hear them talking about who they're with, right? Their team, saving their buddy next to them. That's what they fight for, right? And the fundamental ideal that they have surrounding what the United States is and what it means to be a patriot and what the Constitution stands for and being the, you know, the freest country in the world, right? And that's what these 18-year-olds, the ideals that they're fighting for in their head at this age, besides the actual like geopolitical situation of why we're actually going in there, what we're actually doing and why we're doing it. They're kids going into these situations. And what you'll find is like, this is kind of an interesting conversation is, you know, he talks about, you know, they're married and they weren't old enough yet to have kids, right? They weren't old enough to be able to see what life is actually about when you look in your child's eyes when they're born, and they didn't get any of that. And not only that, but their family lineage is gone. They will not reproduce. There will be no duplication of that DNA because of these wars that they were sent to fight at such a young age. And so, you know, to me, it's like these conversations surrounding like, is an 18-year-old able to carry a gun? Well, if you're going to allow people to sign up for the military and to go fight on behalf of our government in wars that these 18-year-olds don't even understand, yeah, you can't like have your cake and eat it too, as people say, right? Like you can't not allow an 18-year-old to protect his own home because he can't purchase a weapon, but then send him to Afghanistan to go fight the Taliban in the same breath because you think that it's okay for them to do that under their scenario, right? And under your reasoning, right? Because, you know, and that's kind of how you have to look at that gun situation. I guess we'll take a little sidetrack here. You know, to me, the gun situation is an interesting one, and especially with the most recent events and things. That, you know, if you look at the government from a large standpoint, is the government is its own, you know, entity, right? It's its own household, right? It's a household of 300 million people. And then you break it down to the state level, right? And the state is just a smaller organization of that same family, right? That it breaks down to a smaller number. And inside that you have counties, and inside that you have cities, and inside that you have subdivisions, and inside that you have households. But what the country is just its own family entity that has decided that we're on the same team, right? And we all live around each other, so we should, you know, be kind to each other, and we should have some rules and that type of deal, right? So when you break it down to like the household level, the government in the stance when it comes to gun control is basically just the government wants to be able to control weapons for its own personal reasons, to defend itself, right? As a country family, it wants to defend its property, right? It wants to be able to do that. And it does that through military action, right? Now, when you break that to the state level, you have, you know, sheriffs and the National Guard, and you have state entities that want to be able to defend itself against its enemies. And then you have households, right? You have actual physical subdivisions, your home in that subdivision, and you need to be able to do what the government does. You need to be able to do what the federal government does, what the state, they all know that they have to do it. It's the same reason Joe Biden has a security guard, armed security all around him at all times. Same thing with celebrities, same thing, you know, all of these people that are preaching gun control are constantly surrounded by their own security who are all armed. Right, but you're the peasant. You don't need that stuff. What do you have to worry about? You're not famous and like I am. You're not a political elite like me. What do you have to worry about? Right? So they want to strip your right away. But if there's no guns that are allowed, right? If they strip your right to own a handgun or to purchase without, you know, extreme background checks where they get to say whether, you know, you get it or not. If that's allowed, you know, that allows them to be, you know, when the Constitution was written, and we're getting on a little bit of a rant here. When the Constitution was written, the idea for the Second Amendment was generally not, for hunting, right? Sure, you should be able to have a gun, right? But it's also protection of person and protection of property, and it's also protection from a totalitarian government, right? So in the same way that they want to defend themselves against other countries, they want to defend themselves against their enemies. There are bad individuals, bad countries out there who want to harm America. There are also bad people out there who want to harm the president. There are bad people who want to harm celebrities, and there's bad people who want to harm me and you. And so why should it be any different? If the government, okay, I can much rather get on the page of the government if they want to say that nobody gets guns. We don't get guns. We're gonna sign a treaty with the UN where everybody just throws all of their weapons in a circle, and we're gonna go back to the Stone Age, and we're just gonna beat the shit out of each other with sticks because that's, that we don't like guns anymore. If everybody agrees that we're on the same page and there's no longer going to be gun manufacturers, that every single gun that's ever distributed, has been rightfully returned and checked next to a box so that we know there's 0 guns that are out there, we can have a conversation about that. But if the government wants to be armed, if our president wants armed security, if our celebrities get armed security, if everybody but the peasants gets to have guns and then they want to take away your right from that, no, I can't buy into that. Right, because in the same way as it's a microcosm. The family household is a microcosm of what the government is, and so to strip the family of their ability to defend themselves, it just doesn't work. Right, it's the same reason our government will never lay down their arms and just give it to the UN and say, all right, if we're all going to throw in our weapons on an individual level, why don't we do it on the government level? Well, because we all know that there's sneaky ass people out there who want to do you harm. There's countries who want to kill American soldiers. Right? We know that. We also know that there's individuals out there who are going to break into somebody's house tonight and murder somebody. It's just unfortunately the side effect of humanity is there is bad people that are out there. In that you see that in that macro level of our government. Our government is not going to just throw their guns into the middle with every other government and say, oh, all right, we're all safe. We're going to go back to using sticks to beat the shit out of each other. No, they're not going to do that. They know that the power is in the weaponry. The power is in the individual who holds the most deadly weapon, right? And so why would we as individuals give that up? All right. Anyways, side note. Everybody who goes into the military, if you're going to say 18 is too young to own a weapon, to go into a gun store and purchase an AR to protect yourself, to protect your family, to go hunting, whatever the hell you do, then you have to change the military age. You can't just allow them to shed blood on your behalf, but not allow them to protect their own home. It makes no sense. So anyways, let's continue this Dakota Meyer clip.
It's amazing how you could have thousands of days in your life, and one day changes the way you look at everything.
One day changes the way you look at everything. And, and like the further I go on, I look at it different. I always talk about this story of, whenever this guy came up behind me and I ended up killing him with a rock. And I always remember I see it every night. Like I remember, I just see his face. And cause there was a point that I feel like that anybody that whether they're injured or anything, like they realize they're defeated. I don't know. I just think there's a point when you look at somebody and they know they're going to die. And I'll never forget that. And now I look at it and I see it, and I always think that this guy is a son to somebody. His mother and father are going to miss him. This guy, he believes in his cause as much as I do. He doesn't believe he's wrong. This guy, he could have had a wife or kids that are never going to see their father again. Just like, my dad might have never seen me again if it was switched. And really, I don't hate him. I don't even know this guy. We're just here at this place right now because we were born in 2 different countries.
Were you out of weapons? Were you out of ammo?
He had came up and he started choking me. I had shot him once before, and I was trying to pick my buddy Dada Lee. My one of my closest Afghans, Dada Lee, had been shot. He had been killed, and I came around this terrace to get him, and I was on my knee, and this guy came up behind me, and
so he didn't have a weapon either.
No, he did. He had a weapon, and I ended up shooting him from the ground, and I thought he was dead when he fell on the ground, and I kind of moved down and got down with Dada Lee because I was still getting shot at from this machine gun up on this hill. And I was trying to make myself small as I could, and this guy ends up coming up and choking me. Like I thought he was dead, and he ends up choking me out. He starts trying to choke me out, and eventually let up a little bit, and I end up getting around him, and we were fighting back and forth, and I can remember all I was thinking about was like, don't let his legs get on me. Like, these guys, their legs are, I mean, they've been crawling up mountains their whole life, and he was a pretty big dude, and I just remember getting on top of him. Finally got on top of him, and I was rolling on top of him. He didn't have all the gear on, I did, and I remember getting on top of him like I was straddling him, and I'm just reaching up trying to grab for anything I can, and I'm holding him and holding him down with my throat, with my forearm, and I'm just grabbing anything I can, and finally I ended up grabbing a rock, and I just started beating this dude's face in, and I just started beating and beating and beating, and I remember just like finally, like after hitting him, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, 4 or 5 times, whatever, I remember him like finally just kind of looking at me and like just it's like he's like I'm just looking him in the eyes, like obviously closer than me to you right now, and you just see you can tell like he knows where this is going. And I always think about that, obviously I would kill him a million times over again, right? He was the enemy. Like, I don't feel bad about that part of it, but I just think about like in that moment, if I can find a way to relate to him in that moment, a man I'm taking his life, we all in America can find a way to connect with each other. If we don't connect with each other, it's because we choose not to. I don't care what your differences are. Like, find a reason of why we can get along, not why we should not get along.
Right.
Wow. So that's pretty, like I was saying, a little intense, right? That's truly a horrific situation that this man found himself in, and how unfortunate to have to be in a situation where you have to take somebody's life or it's your own, right? And you said that, he said that. I would do it 1,000 times over if I had to, because he was the enemy, right? He was going to do that to me. He came up to me to choke me. There's nothing that I could have done to put myself out of the situation besides not go in the military, however many years ago he had been in, 3 years ago. But he was positioned in somewhere where he had to defend himself and had to defend the people around him. And what he didn't talk about there was what led up to that. But I believe nobody on his team made it out. It was just him in that situation. And that's something that's easy to forget too. It's easy to like glorify them. It's easy to like put them on a pedestal because they went off and fought. But like, man, it's such a mixed emotion. It should be such a powerful thing on Memorial Day to like look back at what they actually went through, right? What they actually had to endure, both in the moment and then for the rest of their life after these actions, after defending themselves, after being positioned in a way where they had to go through this and do these things to other people. And it's probably not very often. Well, maybe it is. Maybe but it's refreshing to hear someone, I guess refreshing and interesting to hear somebody go from speaking about beating someone's face in with a rock 4 or 5 times and seeing them really just like decide that they're not okay with it, but just decide that like, oh, this might be it, right? To like actually have to look at the humanity of an individual in that moment and realize, that maybe this is the end of your life, that you're not going to see your children. And on both sides of it, right? It's like, I don't know, I think the more developed we get as a world, right, as a consciousness, as an individual, the more we realize that like these wars, at least from human aspect, are like just makes no sense to be fought in these manners. Like literally neither of those men knew the geopolitics down to the core of what they were there fighting for. They were positioned by people in power who had agendas in mind that they wanted to accomplish on the backs of this man losing his life in this situation where he went to, go choke Dakota Meyer. Either which way, it's like it's a horrific event because just as easily, whoever picked up that rock first, right? Whoever was put in a position where they could have walked away alive would have seized that chance, but they were only in that position because of the individuals who put them there. But anyways, let's not take away from the heroicism. Heroicism? Yeah, heroicism's a word. Heroicism. Let's not take away from the heroicism of that, individual in that moment who faced their fears and had the courage to fight in this situation. And now, like I said, it's a mixed emotion. You can't just like throw them up on a pedestal and, you have to have empathy still, right? It's not just like, look at the heroes. It's like, man, what these people had to endure to allow us to enjoy our lives the way that we do, allow us to maintain our freedom and our sovereignty from other nations, and how easily it is to forget the horrific actions when just putting them on that pedestal, when just looking at them as a hero. It's easy to forget everything that they had to go through. And like I said, everything they're going to have to endure from here on out. But it's important to understand how deeply complex these things are, even for an 18, 19, and 20-year-old to have to handle, and to not even be in your adult life, right? Like you're 17, 18, 19 years old, you sign that dotted line. And then you go off and you have to experience such trauma and then take that into what you believe to be normal everyday adult life when you're 24 and you have your DD-214 in your hand and you're ready to like take on the world. If you're one of these individuals who went through this, like you don't have the same lens as everybody else. You have such a heavier burden to take into everyday life, to take into your first marriage, to take into your, to parenting your children. And you have such a different vantage point of what it means to go into the military and what it means to protect your country and what it means to have a constitution the way that we do and be willing and able to protect and defend it. It's heavy, right? Like that's a kid. 19 years old is a kid. And then to carry that burden into every other year, every other decade, every engagement, every family reunion, whatever it is, like you carry that with you. So, it's something that's refreshing too, is looking at all these people and looking at how normal they are, right? Like every single one of these guys could just be right next to you on a plane or, talk to you at the bar or, it speaks to human resiliency too, right? To be able to experience something that horrific and then to come out and still be able to just leave your house, let alone form a sentence or get on a Joe Rogan interview, right? Like, man. So the next one we're going to listen to is Salvatore Giunta. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Salvatore Giunta. We will go ahead and listen to this clip, and then we will discuss it too. This is a pretty incredible story. I haven't read too deep into it, but I'm interested to hear it. So here we go.
I grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I am the oldest of 3 children. It was the Midwest, middle class, sunshine, rainbows, green grass, you don't have to lock the door kind of neighborhood. That was where I grew up in Iowa. I was about to graduate high school, and I heard a radio commercial come on. And I said, come on down, see the recruiter, get a free t-shirt. Who doesn't want a free t-shirt? I'm working at Subway, I want a free t-shirt. Of course I want a t-shirt. So I went down and I talked to the recruiter, and kind of the things that he said started making sense. We're a country at war. This was 2003. We just jumped into Iraq. We've been in Afghanistan since 2001. This is my chance. I can make a difference if this is what I want to do, and I can do it everywhere, but not in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. My great-grandparents came over from Italy in 1904. No one that I know of in my immediate family served in any sort of military. This is my chance to say, the Giuntas are going to go serve. I'm going to do it.
Salvatore Giunta enlisted in the U.S. Army in November of 2003. After excelling in basic training and infantry school, he was deployed to Afghanistan in 2005 and again in 2007. The second tour would station him at a remote firebase in the deadly Korengal Valley.
I remember being so excited to go. I wasn't just excited, I was ready. I'm going to go there and kick in doors and solve this. We'll wrap it up, we'll go home, we'll drink some beers and say, you know what? I served in the United States Army. I'm proud of that every day. And within 3 months of being in country, an IED took out a truck and killed 4, and the gunner lost both of his legs. These are people in the prime of their life. They will never be stronger than they were that day, to no longer have a tomorrow. That was when I truly felt that I was in the Army. My second deployment was the Korengal Valley. It was like nothing that I had ever seen in Afghanistan before. We were at the bottom of a valley with mountains, just sheer straight up and down on every single side. And every single place you're gonna fight, you are at the bottom. And there's no spot you can choose because you don't get to choose a spot, they get to choose the spot. So Operation Rock Avalanche, gonna go to...
And I guess that's something that's fair to mention too, is they don't even get to pick where they go, or like some of the tactical disadvantages that they've been put into. Like there's a movie that came out surrounding there was a group of Marines who basically did a bunch of home videos like early in the, like literal camcorder mode. Like I think it was like early mid 90s. There was a group of Marines. I need to think of the name of the movie because it's a true unbelievably incredible depiction, and it really seems like the whole movie, the depiction of it that they ended up doing seemed like like they took a lot of the scenes of this home movies that they made. And I think there was like 4 or 5 Medal of Honor recipients. I should have clipped that together for you guys too, but a really unbelievable movie that came out about this specific, it might be this specific area that he's mentioning here, where basically there was a big mountain area surrounding the entire, like a full circle mountain, and then down in the valley here, there was a military base that they were put in, a forward operating base right in the middle of these mountains at the very, very bottom, where they were at a complete disadvantage from every single point that you could look at. They were at a disadvantage from. And there was many soldiers from the U.S. who died. And every single day in this area that they were fighting in this forward operating base, they would receive gunfire just from the mountains, and they could barely even see where it was coming from. But the vantage point that they were fighting from was just like, imagine, like, I don't know if you've ever seen, like, I guess that's a bad example, but if there's just a complete circle of mountains around this area, there's a base at the very, very, very circle middle bottom. So there's nowhere to hide, there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to even cover to reload your weapon besides the buildings. And so this movie's truly incredible depiction. So I wonder if this is the same base that they were talking about there. I think it's like it might have even he might have said it, but I think it was like they coined it like Death Valley. But a horrific tactical disadvantage that these men were in from the beginning. Like, it's not even like they none of them choose this either. Like, higher up chain of command guy writes a fucking sticky note and hands it to a corporal and says, all right, start a base at the bottom of this mountain, without ever actually visiting it. And how many people died on the decisions, like on the backs of that decision, how many young soldiers' lives were lost because of this like terrible tactical disadvantage that they were given from the very beginning. Like they didn't even have a chance from the beginning. And so whatever this movie is, you got to find it. It's a great, probably one of my favorite military movies of all time. And it truly like captures the humanity, like the essence of what being in the military is, and all the shit talking and camaraderie and all the, difficult situations that you find yourself in. It's a really incredible story. So, but if that's not the place that he's talking about, the fact that they're putting our soldiers in these areas over and over again. Now, I know that there's been like since then, like statements that they came out and said, yeah, there's absolutely no reason that we should have actually put a base in this area. I don't know. It's crazy, but I'll find the name of that hopefully before the end of this podcast, and we'll see if I can give it a shout out and let you have a good movie to go watch, because it's a really, really incredible movie. But let's continue on this clip. Again, this is Salvatore Giunta discussing his the time that he received the Medal of Honor for.
Place we had no idea. Well, we had intel, and intel was lots of bad guys. That's what we came here to do.
Coming in on 5-1.
The first day we got in some contact a couple times each day, usually small arms, RPGs. There's some bad guys and they shot at us, and we dropped some mortars and other things, and apparently there was a lot of people that they deemed innocent that died, and they were not happy. We came to help, but now we pissed off everyone, and we're still, other than our little areas that we've been watching for the last day and a half, we don't know what's outside of this. We left where we were and headed to another village. It's probably only, maybe another 3 kilometers. And we set up, we're doing listening posts, we're going in and engaging the villages, saying, hey, what do you need? What would make your lives better, and how, let's talk.
2 Alpha, this is 2 Bravo, radio check over.
I was a team leader, so I have a radio, so I can click over and I can hear what's going on with the other guys. and we started hearing on the radio a chaos. Shooting doesn't make chaos. To hear chaos from people who had been doing this was strange. And we started hearing they're missing people, they're missing things, there's KIAs, we have Americans killed. It was bad. We just stayed waiting, listening to a million bad things happen to our brothers a kilometer away. You've never been more ready than you were right there, and we couldn't do anything.
Hey, they took fire from right over here, okay?
They overran a scout team position, they overran a gun team, and the 2nd platoon was going to go into the village, and then we were going to be on one of the side peaks overwatching the village. So if anyone started coming from the outside to come and attack them in the village, we already have the high ground above them. And we sat there 12 hours, 14 hours, just watching and waiting, and nothing happened. The commander said, we're going to pull out, we'll go back. It was probably a 2.5 hour walk, and the sun was down, but the moon was big. And that moon really does make just a huge amount of difference in what you can and can't see. It was Sergeant Brennan, Specialist Eckroad, the squad leader, Staff Sergeant Gallardo, myself, Casey was my saw gunner, and then Clary was my 203 gunner. We went about 200 meters from where we sat. And that was when I've never seen before or since anything like what happened. The tracers come usually 1 tracer, 4 balls. So every time you see one that glows, there was 4 somewhere in between there. And absolutely everything. Every single inch of the air in front of us, behind us, was filled with tracers. Thousands of bullets in the air, going both ways at this point. I think within the first 5 seconds, I think pretty much everyone had been shot somewhere. Casey and Clary were behind me, and Casey had the M249 squad automatic weapon, the saw, and so it can shoot about 1,000 bullets per minute. And Clary was shooting his 203, which shoots a 40 millimeter grenade. But the guys were so close, the grenade, he was just making a lot of booms, but it wasn't on them, but he was doing exactly that. That was a good thing for him to be doing. And so I looked towards my leader, Sergeant Gallardo. I saw Gallardo coming back, and I just saw his head twitch. And it wasn't like, what was that twitch? It was like something just hit his head twitch, and he dropped. So I just ran out, and I grabbed him. He was kind of flipped over on his back, but he was okay. So I kind of grabbed him and was pulling him, and he was jumping up, and we got back, and I went to a little bit of deflate. It probably gave us maybe 6 to 8 inches of relief in the ground. And we were both there, and when that happened, I got hit. Gallardo's here, and I'm here, and they're shooting at us from here, and I just got hit over here, which the people over here can't shoot over here. That is a very serious thing to figure out incredibly quick, why that bullet came from over here. They set up in an L shape, which if we were to do it, we would do it exactly like that. We were trained from day one in basic training. It is a battle drill that a near ambush. What do you do if a near ambush happens? Well, you charge the line. You're going to win or lose on that, but you're going to win or lose staying where you're at, and if you stay where you're at, you're probably going to lose. We threw grenades, and we ran forward. Eckroad was on the ground and said he'd been shot. Brennan said he was shot as well, and he's somewhere up ahead. I can hear this as I'm running, and Gallardo went for Eckroad. And Gallardo's the man. I trust Gallardo. There was no more grenades, and I was already running forward, so it was pointless to stop. And Gallardo had Eckroad, and Casey and Claire were doing everything they could, and they were keeping their heads down. And when I ran up, and I couldn't find Brennan where he should have been. This part haunts my dreams.
Now, it's interesting to think in a situation like that, like everything that's going on, all of the intensity of the moment, like gunfire from here, gunfire from there. You like it's easy to let it escape from your mind if you've never been in a situation like that, and I've never been in a situation like that. So it's just interesting for me, like the real time chess match that is happening in a firefight. And so, and the stakes are so high. And for him to say that, like, in this next moment was one that will stick with me forever, and the intensity of that moment, to have a moment that even like within that, however many minutes that this firefight's happening and you're seeing people drop to your left and to your right, and to have something significant enough in that moment to stand out to you, and to have to also not only like comprehend everything that's going on around you, but to react, analyze, strategize, and then take action is like, it truly is a special type of individual who can find themselves in a position to gain this Medal of Honor, because every single one of those decisions has to be correct, right? The analyzing the situation, the reaction to the situation, the calm, cool, and collected, and then the actual action itself. Everything had to align, perfectly for these men to do what they did. So just speaks to the intensity of the moment and the intensity of what he's must be talking about coming up here. The fact that there's an individual moment within all of this that sticks with him specifically. So here's that.
I came out and there was two guys carrying one. It's crazy. I don't know how anyone else got up here before me. I mean, this all happened like this. As I got a little bit closer, I realized what was going on. I deployed with Brennan before. The year before, we were in Afghanistan for a year, so I'd been with Brennan for maybe 4 years. He's smarter than me, stronger than me. He's smaller than me too, but he's faster than me. He's a better shot than me. And that's who's getting carried away.
Giunta immediately charged through the persistent enemy fire toward the two insurgents carrying Joshua Brennan. He killed one and wounded the other, then carried Brennan to a position of relative safety until medevac helicopters could arrive.
In action on 25 October 2007 during support of Operation Enduring Freedom. His unwavering courage.
You don't find out if you did the right thing or wrong thing until later. And sometimes, maybe if you did the wrong thing, maybe you don't ever find out. Gallardo, my squad leader, came up. He said, I was talking to Captain Kearney, and he said, you're gonna get put in for a Medal of Honor. I said a lot of things, none of which we're very happy or should be told now. Mendoza had died, and Brennan had died. The other guys were going to be okay. They were all in surgery or getting the bullets out. You're going to congratulate me. You're going to pat me on the back and say thanks. Stupid. The day at the White House, when the president put it around my neck, in the front row I had my family. I had my wife and my mom and dad and brother and sister. And in the second row I had some aunts and uncles. But the row behind my family was Brennan's family. And next to them was Mendoza's family. And as I felt this light silk ribbon go around my neck, I felt the weight of the sacrifices of those two men, and the sacrifices of several of the people in that audience. No one did anything special. Every single one of us were fighting for our absolute life. If I didn't do that, what was my other option? I get congratulated and patted on the back, and everyone thinks I'm such a great guy when there's people that will never get a congratulations, a thank you, or you're the man ever again, or see their family, their mother, their father, their children, and yet you're gonna congratulate me. I'm the keeper of it. It stays at my house at night, put it around my neck when I need to. But this is not mine. This is not for me. This represents so much more. This represents not just my boys, not just Brennan, not just Mendoza, not Rugal, who died the day before, not all the guys who have been wounded, not all the people who have suffered, not the families that will pay the price for this country. It's not for any one of those people. It's for all of those people. And if I gotta do it, I'm gonna do it for them. And there's nothing they wouldn't do for me, so how could I not do this for them?
Wow. Yeah, that's heavy. Because, can't imagine being in that situation. Like he said, like getting your Medal of Honor while you sit out and watch the families of your friends that didn't have the opportunity to come home, let alone sit there from in front of the president of the United States being congratulated, right? Like that, it's like such a weird, status to obtain because all of the things that came with that, right? Like I wonder how many of those men who have the Medal of Honor even, look at it in a way other than how he looks at it, which is just like, it's not this like, it's not the Stanley Cup, right? It's not like, it means horrible tragedy happened and you witness horrific things and likely your friends are dead and or seriously wounded and then to like have this like celebrity type event where the president is putting a necklace around your neck about it and he can't comprehend a fraction of the agony that you went to be standing on that stage or to look out and see your friends' parents there is, gosh, that's heavy. And so the movie I was mentioning earlier was called The Outpost, I believe. It came out in like 2019. I don't know if it's specifically talking about this one place. It might be. I'll have to look deeper into that for you guys. But the Korengal Valley is where Giunta served, where he got his Medal of Honor. And so here's what it talked about. I was talking about that earlier, like the base at the very the very bottom of this like mountainous area. And so here's 6 reasons why the Korengal Valley was one of the most dangerous places in Afghanistan. So it says, nestled between high mountains of the Afghan side of the border with Pakistan, the Korengal Valley has one of the hardest fought over patches of ground in the war on terror. 54 Americans have been killed and 4 Medal of Honors were earned in the valley or its immediate vicinity, while the case for a 5th is under review. One was that of the first living recipient of the award since Vietnam, Staff Sergeant Salvatore Giunta. That's who we're discussing here. Today, the American military rarely moves into the valley, but hand-picked Afghan commandos, some trained by the CIA, fight constantly with militants there. The Afghan government maintains offices at the Peck River Valley, the entryway to Korengal. Their police execute raids and patrols in a continuing attempt to shut down or limit the shadow government operating there. When the American military was there, they faced the same challenges the Afghan forces do today. Some of these dangers are common across Afghanistan, while others only existed in Korengal Valley and the other branches of the Peck River Valley. So it says the terrain is a nightmare. Steep mountains, loose shale, thick forests, and open patches of land made the area a nightmare for an occupying force. Command outposts were built in relatively open areas so that defenders could see approaching militias. However, this meant patrols returning to the base had to cross the open ground, sometimes under heavy military arms fire from nearby wooded areas and houses. The thick trees in the area allowed fighters to attack U.S. forces from cover and concealment. The attackers would then hide their weapons in the forest and return to the civilian population. The steep hillside allowed snipers to climb above outposts and fire into the bases as soldiers slept. Loose rocks on the steep land led to injuries from falls and trips. It says building new bases and keeping them supplied presented constant challenges. Probably they show that in The Outpost. Again, I don't know if that's the exact movie. I'll look at that before we're done here. But in The Outpost, they showed that like when they would actually go to get supplies, they would drive their Humvees up these mountainsides, like right on the cliffs, like horrifying to drive. Like, you ever drive through like Colorado going up to like Vail or Breckenridge or something? And it's how I felt, but it's like not even close to that. It was like this small patch of area that you drive on down this like cliff mountainside. That's I believe in the movie, which is a direct account of what actually happened there. There was people who died just from trying to get supplies and their Humvee falling off of the side of this mountain. So, just a horrific way all around. And that talks about getting food, getting water, getting gear, getting ammunition. Anything had to go through these cliffs, right? They had to go drive on these like super small roads leading up the side of this mountain through gunfire. And that's just one part of what made it as horrible as it was. So it says its proximity to Pakistan gave Taliban a cross-border sanctuary. It also says the civilian population is largely confrontational towards outsiders. The U.S. faced multiple insurgent groups along with criminal elements. That might be interesting. So most NATO units faced opposition from multiple factions in their regions, but the Korangal Valley was a high priority for both the Jamaat al-Dawla al-Quran, or JDQ, and Al-Qaeda. The JDQ is suspected of having connections to Pakistan intelligence, and both groups are certainly well-funded. In addition, local insurgents cropped up under formation timber barons who lost family members and money when the Americans moved in. It also says that the Taliban would often use human shields in battle, which would make it even more difficult in the Korangal Valley. So let's see what The Outpost was the movie that I was discussing earlier. Let's see where that was actually talking about. So it talks about the Battle of, Korandash. So it says Combat Outpost Keating. So it was the Kamdesh Outpost. So that's what The Outpost is actually about. So it says, let's read a little bit about that. Now, this is what actually was that whole movie was surrounding this combat outpost Keating. So it says one of the several U.S. Army outposts established in northern Afghanistan, located in a remote valley surrounded by the Hindu Kush Mountains, the base was regarded as a death trap. The troops stationed there faced regular Taliban attacks, culminating in one of the bloodiest American engagements of Operating Enduring Freedom. The film tells the story of the 53 U.S. soldiers and 2 Latvian military advisors who battled some 300 enemy insurgents at the Battle of Kamdesh. So, this is talking about the plot, the production, the release. Let's read through the plot a little bit because I believe it's just a direct translation from what actually happened. So it says, during the War of Afghanistan, Sergeant Romesha and a new group of soldiers arrived at the Kamdesh under the command of CPT Keating. Let's go on here. So, yeah, well, watch the movie. I'll give you that. Watch the movie. It's a great movie. It's a good cast. The storyline's really done well. The scenes of the actual war are like crazy. One of the best war movie scenes you'll ever see to me was in The Outpost. It got like I don't want to deter you. I don't know why it got a lower rating on IMDb. It got like a 6.9. I guess that's probably pretty good for a war movie. Unless you're Star Wars or something, you probably need a little bit of flavor. If you're directly taking a battle that happened in Afghanistan and trying to correlate it to a movie, it might be a little difficult to get the highest IMDb. I don't know. The movie's great. It's a great movie. It's super intense. It's a great story. It's the combat scenes are unbelievable. It's probably one of my favorites that I've seen. So anyways, in the spirit of Memorial Day, go watch The Outpost. It's a great movie. You should definitely see it. So beyond that, let's go ahead and move on here. But anyways, that just speaks to like the horrificness. Like these men here, they're going to Keating or to Kamdesh or to where Giunta went to, and you have no say in this. You don't get to decide. They're sending you to the death trap. No, you can't say no. You absolutely can't say no. You follow your orders. You go where they tell you to go. Right. So these 19, 20-year-olds are put in a situation where they're put into a place described by Wikipedia as a death trap. And they just have to deal with it. Right. They just have to go. They just have to fight. And whatever positions they're put in because of the lack of leadership or the terrible situations that they're put in by whoever is starting these wars, the military industrial complex, the war pigs, whatever it is. It's truly incredible the things that these guys end up doing in these situations. And like he said, the guy who he described as one of his friends was a better shot than him, was faster than him, was stronger than him, was all of these things. And he didn't get the Medal of Honor. The Medal of Honor went to the individual who survived that situation. And now that's not the case always, right? There's there's people who are dead who got the Medal of Honor posthumously, I think. Posthumous, I don't know. However you say that word. They got it after they died. And so that's nice to hear at least, right? But in this situation, it's like it's not always the strongest, it's not always the fastest, it's not always the best shot who get these Medal of Honors. It's whoever who shows the most courage in these situations and, you know, puts themselves in a situation where they're saving lives. Now, there's another Medal of Honor recipient who is on, like, you know, I don't have clips of here, but it was some type of combat medic who saved over 200 people at one time without firing a round. I would love to read that story more and dive deeper into that situation, but really, it's sounds like an incredible story. Now, the next one that we're going to be going into, one of the last ones we're going into here, is John Chapman. So this one kind of details a little bit more about like what actually happened during the events. This is the first ever recorded Medal of Honor, so where they actually have the video feed of what exactly happened in this situation. So we're going to watch that, and then we'll go with our Jocko clip, and then that will be the show here. So again, before we go though, the first thing I need you to do, hit that subscribe button. Hit the 5-star reviews, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever the hell you're listening to this, hit that 5-star review button. If you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. Every single week, I have new episodes coming out. Go ahead and go back and listen to some of the libraries of the topics that I've gone into. There's been some really interesting conversations. But go ahead and subscribe. Hit that 5-star review button. Check out our website, redpillrevolution.co.com is for losers, and also for people who buy domains so that they can sit on them and want to make money off of it. I don't know. redpillrevolution.co. You can check out all of our links: Twitter, Instagram, Truth, YouTube, TikTok, Rumble, wherever the hell. Everything's everywhere. So just go there, check it out. You'll see all the links. You can subscribe there. Subscribe on YouTube. That's all I got. Now, next to that too, the next thing is, there's only one way that I get support out of this podcast, and that way is through directly through me. I've not wanted to do third-party ads. I don't want to do, you know, whatever the hell, you know, MeUndies bullshit. Like, I'm not there yet, guys. The way that I found where you can support me and you can help yourself, you can actually go to our website, redpillrevolution.co right now. There's a link on there directly where you can actually run a life insurance quote for yourself. It's really affordable coverage. It's really good coverage. If you don't know anything about life insurance, what I recommend doing is a 15-year term at 15 times your annual income. And you're signing up with me. It's my license. You are not signing up with a third party. It's directly through me. Okay. Redpillrevolution.co right now. I found a $63 a month, got me a $2 million policy. I think that might make me, I don't know, I should start being concerned whether or not my wife is going to kill me at this point, I guess. $2 million for $63. Seems like a fair bet. All right, so go ahead right now. You're going to die at some point. We're all going to die. It's inevitable, right? But if you can make a few $1 million for your family, yeah, it's maybe not as bad. Okay, redpillrevolution.co. All right, subscribe, leave a 5-star review. All right, let's go ahead and watch this next clip here. This is about John Chapman. Again, it's the first ever recorded scenario where there's been somebody from beginning to end where we see the actual Medal of Honor actions that are happening here. And here we go.
Chapman, a U.S. Air Force combat controller, and the SEALs are attempting to rescue their lost teammate. You'll watch Chapman's heroic actions as he saves the lives of his entire SEAL team and then another 18 members of a quick reaction force, earning America's highest award, the Medal of Honor. Chapman and the SEALs exfil their MH-47 helicopter. John is the second individual to exit and immediately moves in the direction of the summit. He can be seen moving off to the right of the screen, alone. The team is taking heavy fire from every direction, as indicated by the arrows, as Chapman begins engaging targets. You can see spent cartridges ejecting from his M4. Chapman then begins closing with the enemy, forcing his way upslope in knee and thigh-deep snow. He is constantly under fire as he does this. Chapman's team leader begins to close on Chapman, following his trail through the snow. The dark mass above Chapman is a fortified bunker containing 2 enemy fighters, each armed with AK-47s, who are firing down on the team in the darkness. This bunker will come to be known as Bunker Number 1. To the left of the tree and Bunker 1 is another gray mass. This is a rock outcropping that came to be called the Boulder. Between Bunker 1 and this boulder can be seen the body of slain SEAL Neil Roberts, the man Chapman and the others are attempting to recover. Chapman, still alone and closest to the enemy, pauses to engage targets as his team leader follows him, but never actually catches up with him. Chapman, on his own, now makes the decision to charge directly into the enemy bunker, despite withering point-blank fire. Chapman, now literally on top of the enemy, engages the two combatants and kills them, saving the lives of the remaining SEALs. He does this from a distance of no more than 10 feet. These actions, by themselves, earned him his first Medal of Honor. He then climbs into and takes control of the bunker. Having cleared the immediate threat, Chapman is then joined by his team leader in Bunker 1. You can then see Chapman and his team leader engaging the next bunker, known as Bunker 2, which is situated to the left edge of the screen. This bunker, manned by a handful of Chechen and Uzbek fighters, also contains a heavy PKM machine gun, hand grenades, and rocket-propelled grenades.
So this man got not one, but 2 Medal of Honors for the actions that we're seeing here. And then the first scene that you saw there was him basically being dropped and rappelling down from a helicopter and then going straight at this bunker where they were receiving fire and potentially saving all of his teammates that were there with him. So really incredible stuff. And again, it just speaks to the heroism of each of these individuals and the difficulties that they had to go through and the courage that they showed. And again, all of this because they signed the dotted line went into the military at 18, 20, 21, 22 years old without a thought of geopolitics on their mind and just wanting to get in there and fight for the ideals of our country, right? Not the politicians, not the ideals, the idea that we are a free nation and the people that encompass that, right? And so what an incredible story. What incredible stories. I'm just blown away by some of the videos that we just watched and hearing them talk about it. And so I hope this inspires you. I hope this inspires your Memorial Day weekend, right? As you are going out and, firing up the grills and going to the beach and hanging out with your kids and waking up next to your wife and cooking breakfast with, some music on and, take into consideration the hardship, the difficulties, the heroicness of these individuals. And keep in mind, too, that in every one of these situations, or almost every one of them, there was men who died, who did not get the ribbon of the feeling of a ribbon around their neck placed there by the president. And so, again, I don't think there's any other way that these fallen soldiers would want you to celebrate your Memorial Day than drinking beer with your buddies and hanging out with your kids and loving on your wife and, going to the beach and like doing American shit, right? Like there's no other way they'd want you to spend it. But just know that you are able to do these things. And the time that you're off of work is because there's great men out there who sacrificed their lives and had the courage to stand up in unbelievable amounts of difficulty and to do the right thing at the right time. And there's many who died before them, so even they could get those medals of honor. So here's Jocko Willink. We're going to end with this. But I hope you guys have a great Memorial Day. And here we go.
I am the fallen soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine. Remember me. I am the one that held the line. Sometimes I volunteered. Sometimes I went because I was told to go. But when the nation called, I answered. In order to serve, I left behind the family, friends, and freedom that so many take for granted. Over time, I used different weapons: a sword, a musket, a bayonet, a rifle, a machine gun. Often, I marched into battle on foot. Other times, I rode to battle on horseback or in wagons, sometimes on trains. Later, in tanks or jeeps or Humvees. In early wars, my ships were made of wood and powered by the wind. Later, they were made of steel and powered by diesel fuel or the atom. I even took to the air and mastered the sky in planes, helicopters, and jets. The machines of war evolved and changed with the times. But remember that it was always me, the warrior, that had to fight our nation's enemies. I fought at Lexington and Concord as our nation was born. I crossed the Delaware on Christmas Day in 1776. In the Civil War, I fought with my brothers and against my brothers at Gettysburg and Shiloh and Bull Run. I learned that we must never again divide. In World War I marched on the Marne and held the line at Belleau Wood. The war to end all wars, they called it. I just called it hell. In World War II, I fought everywhere. The beaches of Normandy, the Battle of the Bulge, the hell of Guadalcanal. I stood against tyranny and kept darkness from consuming the world. In Korea, I landed at Incheon and broke out of the Chosin Reservoir. They called it the Forgotten War, but I never forgot. In Vietnam, I fought in the Mekong Delta, at Khe Sanh and Hamburger Hill. Some say my country wavered, but I did not waver. Ever. In the recent past, I have fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, in Baghdad, Fallujah, and Ramadi, in Kunar, Helmand, and Kandahar. As technology advanced, I used night vision goggles and global positioning systems and drones and lasers and thermal optics. But it was still me, a human being, that did the work. It was me that patrolled up the mountains or across the desert or through the streets. It was me that suffered in merciless heat and bitter cold. It was me that went out night after night to confront our nation's enemies and confront evil face to face. It was me. Remember me. I was a warrior. But also remember that I was not only a warrior. Remember also that I was a son, a brother, a father. I was a daughter, a sister, a mother. I was a person, like you, a real person with hopes and dreams for the future. I wanted to have children. I wanted to see my son score a touchdown or shoot the winning basket. I wanted to walk my daughter down the aisle. I wanted to kiss my wife again. When I told her I would be with her until the end, I meant it. When I told my children I would always be there for them, I meant it. But I gave all that away. All of it. On that distant battlefield, amongst the fear and the fire and the bullets, or in the sky above enemy territory filled with flak, or on the unforgiving sea where we fought against the enemy and against the depths of the abyss. There, in those awful places, I held the line. I did not waver, and I did not hesitate. I, the soldier, sailor, airman, or marine, I stood my ground and sacrificed my life, my future, my hopes, my dreams. I sacrificed everything for you. This Memorial Day, remember me, the fallen warrior, and remember me not for my sake, but for yours. Remember what I sacrificed so you can truly appreciate the incredible treasures you have. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. You have the joys of life, the joys that I gave up so that you can relish in them. A cool wind in the air, the gentle spring grass on your bare feet, the warm summer sun on your face, family, friends, and freedom. Never forget where it all came from. It came from sacrifice, the supreme sacrifice. Live a life that honors us, the fallen heroes. remember us and make every day Memorial Day.
And on that note, guys, I don't think there's any more justice I can do here. I hope you have a great week. Thank you so much for listening, and welcome to the revolution. See you guys next week.